Go there and talk, but Jake's not going to be here, so we don't have a forum without him.
Yes, I want you guys in, just a reminder though, if you click over here, there's something here that says go to current and blue.
Okay.
What are you going to be, a permanent front row fixture here for a while? That's true. We're going to have to start talking about the audience.
Hey, I'm trying to start this meeting.
We'll start it.
I didn't want to be rude to you because you're the senior, my senior advisor. I'm a senior citizen, dude.
I think we all are, except for Adam.
Okay. Let's start the meeting of Ripon City Council of July 11th. Started off with Mike will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, oh, we have a minister here, okay.
Will you join me as I pray? Dear God, your greatness is evident in so much of life. Your care is seen in the work of first responders who can risk themselves to help others. We especially see your stubborn love in the work of those who fight wildfires in California and throughout the West. Your joy is evidence in times of good friendship, family camping, outdoor barbecues, backyard pool parties. Your goodness is seen in the citizens of this city who take pride in our community and live to make this the best city possible. Forgive us the times we squander these great gifts we've received from you. You invite us to pray for those who are in authority, and this evening we pray for our mayor, our city council, and all who work to make our city function well. Grant each one what they need to do the work to which they've been appointed. Grant them wisdom to govern effectively with understanding and goodwill. Grant them courage to do what's right, even when it seems unpopular. Grant them the strength to work together, understanding their role as stewards of your authority. Bless today's agenda, bless our city, and renew us all with the strength of your presence as we work to build Ripon into a community that shines like a jewel. We ask this, confident in your goodness and love, as shown in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Well done. Yeah, come on, man, don't be rude. Okay, roll call, Lisa.
Councilmember Daniel DeGraff. Here. Jake Parks. Leo Zuber.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mike Rasusha.
Present.
Mayor Dean Euchre.
Here. Public discussion. I was waiting for the thing to work right. I got trained this morning, but it's not coming up.
Yes, sir. It's right on your sheet right there in front of you.
This is time provided to public.
I know. This time is provided to the public to address the City Council on items not on the agenda. If you desire to speak, please address Mr. Mayor, and upon being recognized, come forward to the podium and state your name and address before proceeding to your subject matter. Seeing nobody, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Oh, that's right. Here we go.
I got to get my vote up there.
Oh,
You got to move in second.
You got to vote.
I did.
yes again.
Did you vote?
Oh, we got to have an abstain for Mr. Parks.
Well, he just asked.
No, he's absent. It's still showing. Okay.
Okay, passes 4-0. Motion to approve the agenda.
This is where we pull items, right? Okay. I would like to pull 1.3D.
1.3D.
D as in dog. 1.4A. 1.4J. 1.4K.
And just so everybody knows, we're going to vote on 2A through 2I as one voting unit since they're basically all pertaining to the same thing.
Right.
Okay? And the proclamation 1.42, we're removing to a later date because that's the way it worked out.
1.42.
No, L or something, isn't it?
Was that L? Did I write it wrong?
Yeah,
L point? L?
1.4L, I think.
Oh, it is L. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't read my own writing. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, with that,
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Wait,
Someone canceled.
now it
our
says
vote.
canceled.
You gotta call, you have to wait till I get there. I just don't,
Okay.
go ahead.
Still says canceled.
says hide vote. I'll hit it again.
Okay, there you go, Leo.
Now it moves.
I second.
Thought we had this down. It's not us, it's the computer
He pulled too many,
completely.
he pulled too many items. She had to take a little more
Oh,
time.
that's right.
Gave her a list.
Okay,
I was gonna give you the rest of the items, but I decided not to.
okay, that passes with a 4-0. Moving on.
Moving on. 1.1D.
Okay, items pulled from the consent, 1.3D.
Right. Okay, who's gonna move that?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Screen was wrong. Okay,
Love this
do you have a motion to
Approve the consent calendar, yes. I motioned and
I'll second.
the graph second.
We need a vote.
Say we get rid of this thing.
It's a long way from here to there.
Passes with a 4-0 vote.
Okay.
And now we'll move on
Okay.
to the polled items.
My only question about 1.3D.
Yep.
What is this all about?
1.3 what?
D.
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
is,
I understand what it is, but I guess my question is why?
yeah, the developer, in doing redevelopment on that property, was required to grant the city a public utility easement along the frontage of their property.
So that's in case telephone and all that stuff?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Are we voting on these as
Yes.
we go, or as,
We have to vote separately.
then I'll move to approve 1.3D?
Second.
Why is this thing moving so slow?
Dean, are you clicking on end now or end vote? On the right-hand side of your screen?
Yes, I did.
Just now?
Yes, we now did.
Would you mind trying to, could you whisper that so you don't make me look bad? I don't think that was part of my training this morning. Okay, move on to 1.4A.
1.48, I guess this is for Kevin, is this the fund? Now, let me back up. Is this a fund separate from the money that the employee and the city put in for retirement for the non-PERS people?
It is a separate fund. This is available to all employees, the PERS employees and the non-PERS employees. And it's a deferred compensation plan where they can put money away pre-tax.
Okay. And this outfit, does this outfit control the investments or just keep track of the money? Who controls each person's investment in this thing?
So this is one of the options. We typically provide two options to our employees. This was one of them, and the other one is through ICMA.
Same sort of deal?
Same sort of deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the two entities control the investments?
Yeah, they work with the employees
Okay.
to
All right.
invest as they desire.
So it's supplemental retirement, not the actual retirement plan?
That's right.
All right,
Yeah,
I got
and,
it.
and there's no match from the city. It's really just a pre-tax deferred
Okay.
compensation option.
I'll move to approve 1.4A.
Second.
How do you know when everybody voted?
Because you can see it on the top. It'll be across the top.
Moving on, 1.4J, Mr. Zuber.
That was 1.4A.
No, that was
J.
1.4J.
Oh, Jay, excuse me.
I didn't see anywhere in the agreement where there's a statement of the duration, how long the development agreement lasts. Did I just miss it?
That, in the development agreement, it's always a 10-year period. That would be in the DA. The subdivision improvement agreement is a separate document that is done after the development agreement. So that's where we get kind of all our engineering estimates for what the improvements will cost and the developer bonds for those improvements. And there's a lot of the information that's in the development agreement end up in the SIA to make sure they get accomplished. So the duration's typically not in the subdivision improvement agreement.
And this, I don't know if it's the development agreement or the SIA, but it lists a specific pattern for building the houses. In other words, there's so many, and then you can start the next one after the first half of the first. How does that fit with that 3% cap that we adopted a couple months ago?
These obviously this development agreement and also the development agreement for the apartments were done before the cap was put in place. So these both of those are more based on performance based. They can pull permits kind of as quickly as they can build and sell them. We do try to limit them to some extent to where we chop it up into different phases so we ensure like the affordable units get built in a timely manner. We don't want them being put off to the very end and then the developer walk away at the end of the project without building those, which has happened when we first started the program way back in the early 2000s. We had some of those issues. So we typically do some performance bases on those. There's 133 homes out there being under construction right now, or the subdivision is under construction, and the apartments are starting, which is 110. Our 3% cap, if we were to put a 3% cap, it's about 160 permits in a year. So I don't think we would hit that 3% cap because I don't physically think they could build them that quickly and occupy them. But if the apartments and the subdivision out there were to build in 1 year, it would obviously be over our 3%.
Okay, if they're exempt because they were done first, then would they count against the 3% if we had 3 other people all come in here and all of a sudden want to start something now? Would that, you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Let's assume they're on pace to build 40, the 2 combined. Then does that leave 120 or does that leave 160 for everybody else?
We've got a couple projects, as you guys know, that have applications in the North Point area. So what I've tried to do with the development agreements, which will be coming in front of the council at some point this year, with those is try to take a best guess at what I think the project out there could build in a year's worth of time in the current economy. And I've tried to allocate permits to the other projects to make sure we stay under that 3%, even with the projects that we have going on. I know that was a concern of council's not wanting to see that spike in any given year so we can maintain services. So I'm trying to structure it that way. It's kind of a cloudy crystal ball as to what they're going to be able to build and sell. But we did pull them back a little bit so that we tried to stay under that 3% cap.
Okay. Thank you. I'll move to approve 1.4J.
No second.
Passes with a 4-0. Now we'll move on to the balance of 2A through 2.
No, K.
K.
1.4K.
Oh, did I miss one?
Yeah.
It's supposed to show up here.
What's on here? Items fold.
This is where they told me it's supposed to show up.
That's this right here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. The golf course agreement,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
I just have two questions. One, I want to make sure I understand what this agreement is doing. And that is, we're being asked to approve an expenditure out of the golf course fund in the amount up to $75,000 to repair things that happened because of flooding. That would not be paid back. Number two, they've also asked for $30,000 to offset operational losses while they were flooded, and that would be paid back at no interest.
That's correct.
Okay.
The only thing I would add to that is we have met with the operators of the golf course, Kai and I, a number of times. And initially when it was flooded, we began the discussions about, they obviously had interest in using this money to perform those repairs. We did discuss trying to do everything we can to get them the money as early as possible, get them back up and running with all holes on the course operating. So that's the $75,000 you see in here was just really a very early guesstimate by the golf course. Kai and I did meet with them yesterday afternoon. They're starting to get bids right now. The water has receded. It looks like the actual costs are probably going to come in much higher than that. The number that they were showing us yesterday was probably closer to $200,000. So Kai and I are beginning the process of going through those bids, obviously making sure that the items included in there are related to the repairs and that are in accordance with the resolution that's been passed. So we're beginning that process now. We're anticipating next month bring back an amendment to this, increasing that $75,000 to a different.
And how much do we have in the fund?
$390,000 is in that fund.
I
at
thought
this
it
time.
said 290. 390. Oh, okay.
So we're talking about roughly half of the money would be used now.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And, you know, that is, in case nobody knows, that is money that was
For that purpose.
essentially earned by the golf course.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but at least if we approve this, they know they get 75 at least to get it.
That's
Well,
right.
get started.
They at least have enough to get started, and then what we had talked about was using the golf course committee to go through the actual expenses and make sure it's all in
Yeah,
accordance.
that's great.
I'll move to approve 1.4K.
I'll second. You're kidding.
And now we'll move on to
you're doing
2A
pretty
through
good.
2I, the balance. Do we have a motion?
Well, we got to open public hearings first.
That's true.
Where are you at now?
We're going to do 2A.
2A, right? Yeah.
We're going to do A through I all at once.
Yeah.
Does anybody from the public wish to speak on any of those items?
2A through 2I.
Made through 2I. Seeing no movement, we'll close public discussion. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up? Or we look for?
I just have one comment, because we talked about it once before, and I think we may talk about it again on the budget. But we are going to look at possibly using some of this money to supplement our people in the landscape maintenance districts, right?
That's correct. I think that is part of the budget.
Okay. All right. I'll move to approve 2A through 2I.
Second.
I'll second. Trying to steal it from you.
I know, God. When I was younger, I'd move quicker. Dang.
And now we'll move on to 2J. This is a public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2017 and 18. I imagine that's you, Mr. Warner?
Yep. Excuse me. This is the public hearing, and we could accept, council can accept any public testimony, and once that closes, I could give council an update on the next item on Resolution 3A and the approval of the proposed budget.
So,
You
want
want
to
to
have public
open
hearing?
up
I
hearing?
got a couple questions, so you want me to ask them after the public hearing?
Yeah, if you want to
Okay.
do the
All
public
right,
hearing.
we'll open up the public hearing. But you guys got anything to say out there? Just listeners. Close the public hearing. And anybody want to speak on this?
All right, how do I do this now? To put my name in the queue?
It doesn't,
Speak? Oh. Am I there?
not on my screen.
You go first, and I'll go.
It says one board member is waiting to speak. Go ahead, Leo. Mr. Zuber.
Isn't my name supposed to show up someplace?
It's supposed to show up right here.
It's where?
It's not here. It just says one board member is waiting to speak. That's all it says.
I'm verifying that too.
Would you make sure you tell everybody that I'm doing this, that it's not my fault? You yell at me when I mess up.
I got your back. I got your back. I'm looking. I don't see it.
All right. I have a couple questions. First is the table in the packet. It's page 356. It's the one that shows the additional staffing proposal. And my question is, there are 4 positions that were proposed for the 17-18 budget. Are those in the budget, or are you asking us whether we want them in and that will change the budget?
Right now, those are included in the budget, which creates the $217,000 ending balance in the budget. These positions are not full-time employees. These are really the reallocation of employees or the addition of one part-time employee. After we talked last time, what I would propose to do is we talk about the additional positions that are noted as future budget items, is once we close out the 16-17 fiscal year, I would bring back the actual financial status of the general fund at that time. And also, this would give us a little time to work with PERS and the actuaries at PERS to determine what is the benefit to the city by prepaying some of the unfunded liability that we have, and what are those savings to be. So I could bring those both back to the city council, and then I could go through the expenses with each of these items.
Well, then, while you're doing that, I have one other question. I asked it, I think, at the last meeting. Not sure it was understood, so I'm going to try it again. In your report for the budget, you indicated that to add the other 5 positions that are on here would cost $317,000. My question is, how much would it cost? Half of that if we put them in place in January? Because my thing is, if by the halfway through the year we can see we'll be halfway through a 3rd year of our sales tax, our property tax, and all that stuff as to whether or not, just how conservative you are when you set up the income. And if it looks like there's a gap there that will continue, I, for one, would like to look at whether or not we could add them rather than wait a year and then we're sitting here saying, well, we got this extra money, let's spend it on something over there, and we never get this started.
Right. I understand what you're saying. I think as I look through these, and some of the challenges that I had is understanding some of the real pretty substantial increases that we have in PERS, and really wanting to make sure that we get it right. So
I understand. I do.
I understand what you're saying, and I think when we come back with the actual surplus from 16-17, I'll be able to break that up by what is the recurring revenue and what is one-time revenue, and then I could prorate these expenses for the fiscal year, but I would also like to show you for next fiscal year, what that means. So we could look at it both ways when I bring that back.
And I want to say, I agree with Leo on that too, because I want him to put in there to begin with, but like Leo said, and I agree with, you don't want to start laying people off later on. So it would be nice to see kind of multiple years to see if in fact these X's do work or don't they work.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Right, and I have received the actuarial information from PERS. So I think from a financial standpoint, this is the prepaying the unfunded liability is a worthy discussion. The part of it that I think is important too is I'm going to reach out to some of the other city managers and county administrators and see if there is a consultant out there, someone who's very familiar with PERS, and who could also, I think from the financial standpoint, I think we have the information we need, but I think there's other positives and negatives as we debate this, if we should do it or not, and what are financial advantages, it'd be good to have someone in here who's very familiar with PERS and what it means. Because it could very well be a substantial amount of money, and it could have a very positive financial impact to the city, but I think it's important to really make sure we understand what that means. So I'll probably be coming back to the council talking about getting someone like that
Okay.
on board also.
My other question has to do with the chart that's on page 359, which is this capital outlay summary. I'm not understanding this. It says that in general capital, we are anticipating a balance at the end of the 16-17 year of $3.3 million. You're proposing to spend of that $532,000, right?
Look, if I could, I'll go through this table because I understand the confusion.
Yeah, 'cause it's-
And I apologize because at the end of our last workshop, I anticipated going over this and explaining it. And I think by the end of it, when we got through the staffing, the capital was the second part of that, and I forgot to go over those slides. So I apologize about that. So just to give a little background to this table is every department, which is listed under the general capital items, in the past, money has been put aside for capital replacement. And it was general fund money that was transferred into those general capital items. So that's what we're projecting to have at the end of the fiscal year 16-17, what you see there.
Okay. I want to make sure I understand what you just said. Is this money that was set aside out of ending balances from prior years?
It's probably a mixed bag. Some of it could have been ending balances, and maybe we didn't spend it all. Maybe an item that we thought we were going to spend, maybe it came in less. So some of it could be a result of that, or maybe from the most recent surplus that had not been spent yet. So there are balances in there that have been out or committed that may not have been spent, and there's probably other funds in there that have been just through the budget process years ago, probably prior to 2008, that is part of the budget process, were allocated to those different departments.
Is this money that's over and above the amount of money we typically refer to as the reserves?
Yes, it is.
So over some period of time, we've accumulated $2.5 million that could be used on the parks, and it's just sitting there?
Yes, part of this, if I remember correctly, is the money we're anticipating to redevelopment had loaned money to the Parks Fund when we did the Missing Sports Park. There was an actual loan. So part of this in the $2.5 million, if I remember correctly, and I could double check and confirm, or maybe Lisa remembers off the top of her head, I believe as part of this $2.5 million is the repayment of that loan, which we have not done yet. Am I remembering that right?
So it's really not there.
It's a liability, right?
It's a liability, not an asset.
Yes.
So shouldn't it have parentheses around it? Or is it money that's there to pay back a loan someday if we decide to pay it back?
Exactly. It's money that's there.
That's a weird position to be in.
How much was the loan amount, Lisa, do you remember?
So this balance is $2.5 million, but the loan is about $2 million.
Huh?
So why would we just pay it?
The loan was $2 million and the
Are
balance
we
is
not paying
2.5?
it because we think someday somebody's going to forgive it?
No, part of it is with everything going on in the redevelopment agency, we really don't know who to pay it to be honest. And we don't want to confuse anything anymore. It's been audited, it's noted in the books. We just are holding on to it until someone says, pay us the money now. So this is where we've been holding on to it.
Is that accrued interest, the difference between the $2 million and $2.5 million?
No, the other 500,000 is probably money that was set aside in different places.
You said the loan amount is $2 million, but we owe 2.5.
No, the other way
We have
around.
2.5.
Oh, okay, thank you. I
We
thought I
have
heard that.
2.5 and we owe 2.
I got it. Okay, now that makes sense.
So whenever the state figures out
the other
redevelopment
way.
and finishing off the dissolution, we're imagining at some point they're going to come back and say,
Yeah.
here's your closeout, pay back this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would note, as part of that, not all of that goes to the RDA. Some of that is going to come back to the city as well, just to be very clear about that. So a portion of this is redevelopment loan money that we've that we had a loan, and it will remain with the city, and we will bring that back to the city council at some point to do a redevelopment project.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, it's a little, but that is the amount that's in there.
Next
right
time
now,
that
with a couple
comes up, I'm probably
parentheses.
gonna ask the same question again.
We'll clarify with some parentheses next time, or some asterisks and notes below that.
We'll all want you to ask the same question.
And as far as the recommended annual transfer, so what we did, if you recall, I think this was done with the 15-16 surplus. We put a list together of all capital outlays items in every department. So what we did with this, we went through that, looked at the life, and developed what, under ideal financial conditions, what you would put aside to have money available to be replacing those items. We do that every year with the enterprise capital as part of the 218 process, and we go through and we do the transfers with the city council, approved by the city council, and that money is transferred. But most recently, we had not done that with the general capital items. So this tells you what that transfer would be if we did that. Lisa and I talked a little bit about, the process we have now since the recession, and we're coming out of the recession. We've essentially been going through and taking the surplus, general fund surplus, once we know it, and have been working with the council to allocate that to different capital items. What we would like to do is continue to do that in January once we close out all the books, but we would also bring that back to council at that time too, because even though maybe something's not getting funded out of the administration department, it's still important to look at some of the upcoming needs and the amount of money that needs to be put away for those future items.
Okay, I got one more question. How is it that up to now we've set aside $155,000 for the police department, but you're proposing to transfer $288,000? Where's the other $130,000 coming from?
So these are not recommended transfers as part of this budget right now. This is what, under ideal financial conditions, you would be putting aside. So right now, we would not be making any of those transfers. We would wait until January when we are done closing out the general fund and seeing what that surplus is, and then take a look at each of the items that would get approved, any of the capital outlay items that would get approved, and then what's not getting approved, if there's money available, would get transferred into those balances for future items.
Okay, now I'm really confused. Let's take engineering as an example. From what I've heard you say up till now, over some period of time, $203,000 was set aside for the engineering department for a variety of intended purposes. Of that, let's not say of that. Let's just say that what you're planning to do is spend $8,300 on the engineering department in 2016-17 out of the general capital fund. Okay, so what happens to the other $195,000? Does it just sit there until somebody decides they want to spend it? Yeah. Okay, now let's go down to the police department. At this point, they have $155,000. You're proposing that out of the 17-18 budget, you want to spend $288,000 on the police department. Does that mean we're going to have to move in $133,000 to make that work?
The way I'm proposing to do it is that none of these recommended annual transfers happen at this point. We'll look at this in January. So in January, when we go through this, and let's say we allocate $500,000 to these capital items. I'd work with the department heads for each of these and bring back items. So let's say the police department needed 2 police cars and it was $150,000. So one of the options we would look at is approving a resolution approving the purchase of those 2 police cars, but also putting aside the difference between the $150,000 and the $288,000 into the reserve account.
But that difference would come from the ending balance of 16-17.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to try to keep ahead of this because at some point,
I
it
think-
could all blow up.
Yeah, I think what we're doing right now is we didn't used to do this. What we did in the past, we just took the ending balance, the surpluses, and just really approved it to purchase capital items. Nothing went into the reserves. Right or wrong, I think a lot of that was because during years of recession, we were just so far behind. We weren't doing any capital items. So the last couple of years, we've really been playing catch up. So now we would look at that and, maybe not the entire amount of reserves or surplus would go to actually purchasing items. Some of it may go into the reserve account to pay for future capital items.
Point taken. But if we're carrying around $3.2 million over and above our reserves, if we ever do get into another cutting position, in my mind, it's important to remember that there's $3.2 million of one-time money that we could say, forget all this capital stuff we're going to do up till now. We're going to use it over here to keep the city moving.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And hopefully the way that we start doing the treasurer's report in July, hopefully it's a little clearer too, that you'll always be able to see that balance.
I'm counting on that.
We won't have to call every time.
Mike, you got something you want to add?
Yeah, I want to stay on, are you done, Leo?
Yeah, I'm finished.
I want to stay on this chart. So, Kevin, I like this, by the way, because I don't think you've had it before.
I have not.
So here's what I envision when I looked at this, and just because it'll make it easy in my mind if I think about it. Again, let's take it administration, or just because it's the top number. So what I'm envisioning is you've got a spreadsheet that shows 20 years of whatever you need, and it totals X number of dollars. So over those 20 years, you need to collect $20,000 a year on top of the 142 you have to buy those things over that 20-year period. So those could accumulate to $500,000 in there before you use some money in the 10th year that you need it, and so on and so forth. Plus, it gives you the opportunity that, let's say, for an example, you accumulate a lot of money in there and you figure out, well, with technology and all that, you really didn't need all that. You can move that around within there to cover things that maybe we need some things done. Okay, so,
Yeah, that's
so this is all
exactly
based on spreadsheets. Okay, because that's the way I'm used to seeing it, spreadsheets, and you need $5 million, and we have so much in there, and over 20 years, we've got to collect so much per year and put it in there, if it's available, like Leo said, but at least it's a plan. Okay.
It's a plan, and you're starting to put money aside, and you're exactly right. You have flexibility of how that money is used.
And I think you need that flexibility, because you don't know if you need to buy a car today or you need a computer system today. It's not all there. You got to move something around to make sure it works. So, okay, thank you. That along with all Leo's questions, that's all I wanted to add.
I got one other thing.
No speakers in quarry.
I can fix that. I learned that.
Only do what I was told. About time. Okay, Mr.
The other question I have, on page 357, I think you have a list of issues, and one of them is this whole Prop 64 thing with what we're going to do about marijuana. And at this point, we basically have said it's not coming here, which is fine. I read an article in the Modesto Bee not too long ago, and it piqued my interest because they also have a rule at this point about no marijuana. But what they're considering is, I guess if you wanted to tax it, you have to go to a vote.
That's right.
And they're considering taking that to the voters now to put it in place if they ever decided to, because if they don't and they decide to do it, it could be 2 years before they could put a tax in place.
Right.
Because you can only do it on a regularly scheduled election. And I'm not supporting it at all, but I also like to be a person that's ready if the ship changes direction. And I don't think there's anything wrong with at least talking about it.
Right.
That if at some point we ever want, I'd rather have a 10% tax ready to go tomorrow when we did it, rather than say, well, we can do it, but if we want to make any money, it's going to be 2 years because we can't put it on the ballot until 2020.
Right. And the paragraph I wrote here on that was, I think to me, and as I was writing this, there was a lot more I could have been adding to it. But I think the thing I realized, and like you reading a lot what's going on, is there's a new reality that we're going into, whether you like it or not. There's a new reality, and you know, the more I go to social places, you realize that things are changing. So I think what Modesto did is worthy of a discussion. I think Tom and I have talked about that, about it, kind of, you know, the being strategic about it. I think I understand why they did that, why you said. So, you know, if council would like, Tom and I could put a little thought into that and at least bring some ideas back to the council for your guys' consideration, if that's something you're interested in looking at, or at least beginning a discussion. If it goes nowhere, it goes nowhere. If it's something that you want to continue discussing, we could do that too.
Well, because if we don't vote on it in 2018, the next time would be 2020.
Right.
And a lot of things are going to change in the next 2 years.
Right.
You know, doesn't necessarily mean you have to go along with them, but it's going to be different.
We do have, I've had multiple calls last month about people wanting to put their warehouse into marijuana plants, and also, what was that other thing called, Ken, that we talked about? They were going to make pills or, yeah, marijuana, like they get the oil. They just bring the oil in and they somehow do something to it and put it into jelly beans and all kinds of weird stuff.
All I know is Nevada stores are out of marijuana. It was on the news today.
Yeah.
They ran out.
You were there?
It was on the news today.
Oh, okay, so I didn't hear that part.
Let me say it. It was on the news today.
One other thing I would just point out in my, excuse me, in my staff report is I did add a figure on page 355 that shows a breakdown of sales tax over the years 2008 to 2016. So to me, I'm a data guy. I like kind of manipulating data and seeing kind of the story it tells. So I broke up sales tax by our different categories of fuel sales, manufacturing, commercial, and restaurants. So you could just see the volume of money we're talking about and some of the changes. And what I thought was most interesting is the restaurants are the only category since the recession that have continued to increase every year. It's a small dollar amount.
Well, and the only thing that gets taxed is alcohol, so that tells you what's going on.
Right. So anyway, I haven't showed that to council before, but I thought it was an interesting look at some of the sales tax categories.
So we're moving on to resolution.
Close the public hearing.
Oh, was that the public hearing? I thought we already did that. We don't vote on this.
We do next.
This is a resolution.
Right, next.
Yeah.
Let's just open up 3A. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Ripon adopting the City of Ripon fiscal year 2017-2018.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Passes 4-0.
3B.
Moving on. 3B, resolution of the City Council of the City of Ripon adopting scheduled fees for the use of the city facilities. You have a motion?
Anybody saying anything?
Okay. At June's meeting, we passed and adopted ordinance 861, which referred and added a section of the Municipal City Code, Chapter 5.52. This was fees for use of city facilities. Part of this ordinance had a reference to a schedule of fees that needed to be adopted before the ordinance came into play. So this resolution here is a schedule of those fees. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Zuber.
I don't know if it qualifies as necessarily a fee that would go on this schedule, but we have made exemptions do those need to be in there? Because it's my understanding that as in 3 days, when that ordinance takes effect, we can't do that anymore. And I'm just wondering if we shouldn't memorialize what we've already done so that there's no question about whether or not this person should be exempt or that person. I sure don't trust my memory. I know the school district is one, but I think there are others, aren't there?
Yeah, if I remember right, the ordinance does talk about some of them. I don't know if it lists all of them, but we could add notes to this if you'd like, and include those on here as notes, so it reminds us.
I just would feel, because there's going to come a time when none of us are here, and I think it would be better if we saw it so that we all knew it. Yeah, that's it. So that whoever's sitting in that chair, whether it's Kai or somebody else, and they come in and want to do something, you can say, this is it. You're not on there, so no.
Well, plus you only have to go to one place, and that'd be the schedule, rather
Right.
than reading
Rather
through the
than go
entire
through the
deal, yeah.
minutes and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's why we like doing that. I think that would
Yeah.
clean it up. But we could add those notes to that, though.
Oh, I didn't get to say I was done.
You stopped reading, so I figured you were.
I'm trying to practice here. You want a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution whatever with the addition of the exemptions that are currently in place.
Second. You're getting that down pretty good.
Yes. Moving on. Item 4A, an ordinance of the City Council of City of Ripon amending Title 16, Chapter 16.20 and 16.24 use tables relating to medical, dental, and optical laboratories.
I'll make a motion, we waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance.
I'll second that.
Adopted 4-0. Moving on to 4B, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ripon adding Chapter 8.14 illegal dumping nuisance vehicles to the Ripon Municipal Code. Ted, you got something to say on that? Good.
Just a second.
Got a motion?
I'll move that we waive the second reading and adopt ordinance number 865.
Second.
And item 4C, an ordinance of the City of Ripon fixing the amount of money to be raised by taxation and the rate of rates of tax therefore necessary to carry on the various functions and departments of the City of Ripon and repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith.
This is one of the most ridiculous things
No
that
kidding.
the state of California ever has done.
Dumb.
We have a motion?
Can we waive the first reading and introduce? Is that what we say?
Waive the first reading and adopt.
So moved.
Second. Doesn't you ask me twice? Seems ridiculous. Every time. No kidding.
Item 4D, an ordinance of the City of Council of the City of Ripon amending Chapter 17.16 of the Ripon Municipal Code.
Nobody? Oh, that's a Mr. Peace.
Yeah, so this is a follow-up to discussion we had last meeting. Section 17.16060, the engineering fees of the municipal code. This ordinance adds two subsections to that, D and E. D, the first one, is the stormwater development submittal review fee, which would be applied to all the regulated projects as defined by the city stormwater development standards, basically including all projects which create or replace 5,000 square feet or more of impervious surface. The fee is set at $500, and that will cover staff and consultant time to review and process the submittals. And then the second subsection E is the survey monument preservation fee, which would be applied to all the permitted activities within the city, encroachment permits, grading permits, building permits. The fee of $100 would be used to cover the cost of evaluating the construction activities within the permit by a licensed land surveyor who would evaluate the activities, make sure that there's no potential to disturb survey monuments. And staff is recommending that the council waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance. So, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. So is Kevin's license on the land for both of these or just the survey one? That's not a real question. So when you put these fees in place, I always ask the same question. Do you all do time and motion studies and all that stuff to make sure that that is enough to actually cover all the costs associated with doing that? Is $100 enough? Should it be $200? Is $500 enough? I don't know. So I'm asking.
Yeah, we do. We look at, kind of what we've been paying. The stormwater development fee, the submittal review fee, it's fairly recent as far as what we've been doing this last year. That fee of $500, $380 of that is going to a consultant of ours who has given us that price to review these. The remaining amount is for staff time. So yes, we have been. The survey fee is a fee that we established with our contracted licensed land surveyor who represents the city, and that's the fee that he will charge us for evaluating these.
So the second question to that is, since it's an ordinance, can we put minimums on this? Because over time, costs will go up.
Yeah. So
if it's $100 today, it may be $150 next year. I don't know. I'd rather see minimum of 100, minimum of 500, and then if costs go up, we don't have to come back and keep adjusting these things or take a loss.
Yeah, I think if there's a significant increase, then we would look at changing that through resolution. These are indexed though, according to the engineering news record, just like a lot of our other fees. So, typically that's between 1% to 5%.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
Annually, July 1st of every year, these will be indexed according to the engineering news record.
Okay, I probably didn't see that. Sorry. Okay.
We could let the engineer make the motion.
Make a motion to waive and introduce, you said, is what we need, right?
Waive the first reading and adopt.
Let's do it that way. Move it.
Second.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Item 5A, grand jury response.
Is this why the lawyer's here?
Yes, this is why you're lucky that the
That's
lawyer is
that's
here
why we got a
today.
real lawyer today.
Tom doesn't know the answer.
The grand jury sent a document here to our agency as well as 10 others. And essentially what happened is there was a complaint that I think it was 10,000 pieces of evidence had been either lost or destroyed or just mishandled. And so the grand jury went out and investigated and wanted to determine whether or not the law enforcement agencies within the county, whether their property rooms complied with their own policies and procedures, as well as the recommended policies and procedures for Post and Lexipol. So Ripon is required to respond to the findings and recommendations that are set forth on page 56 of the report. We have to do that by, I think it's the 10th of September. Our response is just to let them know whether or not we're going to comply with their recommendations, essentially. But what we do is the city, a couple of years ago, I think, adopted a new policy where we bring all of the grand jury reports to the council for the council and the public to provide input for staff, and then staff drafts responses. We will then bring the response back to you, as well as any other policies or procedures that have to be developed as a result of those responses. So right now what we're doing is getting your input on the findings and recommendations so that we can make sure that staff's response complies with what it is you'd like to, how you'd like to respond. So the two findings are, well, first let me just say that there were, like I said, 11 total agencies, and our findings and recommendations were very, very small in comparison to some others. So we're really doing a very good job. They looked at a number of different categories, including training and staffing, audits, inventory and inspections, purging and disposition of property, and then the facilities and safety. And so for the city of Ripon, they found that the Ripon Police Department does not conduct monthly inspections or annual audits as outlined in our policy manual. And secondly, they found that the property room supervisor had not attended any property and evidence management courses, although other staff had. So they made two recommendations. The first is that by December 31st of this year, the city develop, adopt, and implement a schedule for those monthly inspections and annual audits as outlined in our current policy. So they didn't find anything wrong with our policy, which is great. And then also by that same deadline to develop, adopt, and implement a schedule for training of the property room supervisor and at a post course in property and evidence. So we're here to get your input and input from the public if anybody would like to say anything, and then we will develop responses for you.
Maybe we should have the chief speak on behalf of his department.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just to highlight the initial complaint of the 10,000 missing or destroyed items was not our agency. We weren't involved in that.
Correct.
It was another county agency. And because of the grand jury's investigation, they decided to go ahead and conduct these investigation or audit of all the agencies within our county. To the two findings, we have conducted audits and inspections of our evidence room. The issue was they weren't documented as they should have been. So we've already made adjustments to that and are complying with that currently. The other item is with the supervisor of the evidence room, which is our Lieutenant Steve Merchant. He's been in charge of that or overseeing it as a supervisor for a few years. Depending on what period of time within our agency, different people have been supervising the evidence room. We were waiting to determine whether or not he was going to be the de facto permanent supervisor before we made any decisions on the long-term answer. At this point in time, it appears that he is going to be probably the long-term supervisor of the evidence room. So we do foresee sending him to a training. The problem is with any small agency, the more and more tasks that are you're responsible for completing, you have more and more of those tasks being divided or placed upon one or two persons within your department. So when they leave, you have a hole to fill, especially avoiding the training. And it has taken us some time to make sure that everybody's up to date with the other state mandates that are required of all of our personnel. If you looked at last year's budget, we spent $20,000 over our training budget to make sure that we meet all of our state mandates. So we do have to pick and choose at some point in time which trainings are more prudent to send staff to. And usually those refer to people that are handling the evidence or patrolling the streets and making arrests. So at this point in time, we do foresee sending that supervisor to a training. And with that, we would comply with what the grand jury had noted in their report.
Any questions? Mr. Zuber?
Oh.
Somehow you got off the button. You must have hit it twice. Sorry. Mike, go ahead, Mr. Zuber.
Is there anything wrong with telling the grand jury what he just said?
No, and that
given
would...
our resources and our organization, I mean, if they came in here and basically said everything's okay, but your guy's not trained, I'm wondering why we can't say, well, if everything's okay, we'll get the guy trained when things aren't okay.
So we will definitely, in our response, explain what the chief has said, and we work really closely with the chief in responding to, we will work very closely with him in responding as we have in the past to make sure that they know our side of the story and they know that we have not just failed to comply with these obligations. There have been reasons why maybe we didn't keep the records we needed to or whatever. So we will do that. But in terms of whether or not the training is necessary, I would assume it's a post requirement. Is that wrong, Chief? Or is it just a recommendation of post?
I believe it's a recommendation.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that. The other point to that is our evidence technician or evidence clerk that manages the actual facility has been to some of those management classes. The problem is because she's managing it on a daily basis, she can't technically oversee it, even though she has the knowledge to be able to do so. So we kind of have complied in a certain aspect of it, but bottom line, we need to do better at it. And I'll say that there needs to be another person to oversee it, to make sure that the laws are being followed and that the evidence is handled properly. So I do take responsibility for that. It's just difficult to try to determine who that's going to be and make sure they have the time to oversee the management of that facility.
Does that person have to be a sworn officer?
Does not, but I have nobody else.
You want me to do it?
No, him.
Oh.
We pay him. I'm just saying,
I'll volunteer.
Is it possible for I'm not saying we have people running around with nothing else to do, but is it possible to have a non-sworn person in that role?
It could be, they would have to be designated as a supervisor, and I have no other non-sworn supervisors. That's the
I'm just
dilemma.
trying to look at all options.
Think outside the box.
If we had another person that was a non-sworn staff member that was a supervisor, they could oversee that, but at this point in time, there's not in that division.
Mr. Restuccio.
Leo done?
Yeah, I'm done.
So first I want to say, Chief, I don't think that report's bad at all. I mean, when you look at the others, I think you're doing a very good job. These are cleanup things, pretty, I look at it as being kind of not eventful. I understand it takes time and all that stuff, but you even admitted, yeah, some of this cleanup needs to be, and sometimes a third party just needs to come in and kind of say, here's what needs to be done. So number one, nice job, regardless of the comments that are being made by the grand jury. That doesn't bother me at all. The second question I want to ask is, in terms of the post courses, I mean, can some of those be done online rather than actually sending somebody to those?
Not any of those courses. Most of them are persons in physical seats in front of an instructor. There are some courses that Post does that are strictly online or in workshop format that can be done through a computer or sometimes even through teleconference. These are physical attending courses.
Okay.
So we would have to locate them and then be able to send somebody to attend.
Are they done all the time?
It depends on the need.
Okay.
Usually there's designated trainers throughout the state, and it just depends on what request Post is getting to put on these type of classes and where they're located at.
Okay, thanks.
We need a motion on this?
Nope, just discussion.
All right, okay. So,
Yep, we're good to go. Thank you.
good, okay, moving on. Golf Course Capital Improvement Committee. We need to confirm the mayor's appointment.
So move.
Oh, whoop.
Power.
Hey, nobody wants to mess with the mayor.
It's your appointment. I'm not going to just do that. You take full
Well, he's a golfer. He golfs out there, too.
responsibility. We're
Yeah.
just confirming.
Okay, with that, let's have the department heads. Chief, you've talked enough. Okay, Ted?
He's got a ball game to go.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, honorable city council members of the public, I took a drink to make sure I was prepared to be able to speak eloquently to you. I just have two items. Both of them will be brief, depending on questions from the council. Just an update on the 4th of July. We had approximately 25 calls regarding fireworks from June 30th through July 4th at midnight. Those related are into 13 actual incidents that we responded to. Out of those 13 incidents, we had 5 citations issued for possession or discharge of illegal fireworks. 2 were for municipal code violations. 3 were for health and safety violations. During that time frame, it was a fairly busy weekend just for calls for service and some of the other things that were going on. Probably the number one call for service we have were for suspicious activity, as people are out at different varying times of the day and night. Resulted from 1 DUI arrest, 1 warrant and drug paraphernalia arrest, brandishing a weapon arrest, 1 domestic violence arrest, 4 arrests for outstanding warrants, 1 petty theft arrest, and then one illegal possession of a firearm arrest. And those total incidents that we responded to, 13, were about half of the incidents from the year before at 26. And they were down almost a third from 2015, which we had 36 incidents where we responded to. So I know that there's been some interest in how our city ordinances have impacted the use of illegal fireworks or the modification of safe and sane, and it appears that we're heading in the right direction. I don't want to speak for the fire department, but just in brief conversation with the chief bidders, they had a pretty quiet, uneventful evening. So on the 4th. So I think that speaks well for what we're trying to do within our city and the cooperation we're getting from our community.
On that point of that, do you think it was getting the word out that did that? Because from what I read in the paper, like Manteca Lathrop was just out of control. There was a huge article in the paper that they had multiple problems over there.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things. I think part of it was due to the 4th being on a Tuesday. I think part of it's our outreach that we do, not only with our agency, but what the DA's office and Sheriff's office was trying to accomplish prior to the 4th holiday. And to be frankly, I think it's just the respect our community has for not only the reverence for our local ordinances, but the respect that they have for each other. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Okay, good. I mean, that's a yeah.
And I hate to throw this in there, but just kind of to keep everything in perspective, because of what we had going on and the unknown of the weekend before the 4th, we did schedule overtime. So from Friday through the 4th, we spent about 83 and a half hours of overtime. That includes officers, dispatchers, not only for extra patrols on that weekend to combat illegal fireworks and DUI intoxicated drivers, but also for managing the event at Midland Sports Complex. And it totaled about $4,400. That's the update on the 4th. The other item I have is just a reminder that our National Night Out is August 1st. It's a Tuesday, and it'll be held at the Community Center, and it's from 6 to 9 p.m. This year, the Ripon Ministerial Association will not be partnering with us, just as they're changing direction. So this will be put on strictly by PD staff. So we have some things that we're changing with the event, but we hope it'll be a nice, pleasant event for all of our community to come out, interact with not only the police but the fire and the city staff that participate. So we're looking forward to it. It's always a great event. We'll have some good activities for all ages, not only kids but the adults too. I'd like to see the city council go through the 64-foot obstacle course. Yeah. Maybe we can do a little challenge with that.
I hope you can handle disappointment.
But no, it's a good event. We'll be cooking and serving hot dogs, popcorn, shaved ice, and drinks out there. So we just encourage everybody to come out and participate.
Chief, what time does that start?
6 p.m.
Thank you.
Mr. Ted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one item, just want to report on our water use for the month of June. Compared to 2013, we were at 20.6%. That brings our running total, our 12-month running total to 32%.
How much?
32%, 32.4.
In June?
No, that's the running average.
Oh, what was June?
20.
The mayor was in my ear.
Oh, 20.6%.
2% below Manteca.
How does that compare? You may not have the answer, but how does that compare with June of 2016?
I don't have that information. It's pretty close. If I remember correctly, it was.
I'd like to see, because it's been interesting. Some cities have started talking about both years to see what it was last year versus this year.
I think our reduction is down from last year. If memory serves me correctly,
Yeah.
I think it was like 24% last year at this time.
Based on the public's perception of us being out of the drought, we are not conserving as much water as we had in the past.
Right.
We have been a little bit busier with the sending out notices and violations because of that issue. I believe people believe the drought's over, which technically it is. However, there's still a big push for conservation at the state level that we're going to need to comply with.
It's still positive, though, bottom line.
Yeah, it is.
20% is better than 18, or even 19, actually, huh? So you didn't think I was that smart, did you?
No, I'm it's the only reason I come to these
Kai.
meetings.
Good job.
Take a cue, Ken.
Okay. Mr. Z.
Sorry, I'm going to disappoint you. I've got a couple items. Actually, you have a news release that I handed out to all of you guys. It's being released today, actually.
A very fine picture in the back.
There was a very good picture. Actually, this is a company that staff started working with a little bit. They moved into a building over there by on Industrial, leasing it next to Better Built Trust Company. This company is a company that's coming from overseas. This is their first U.S. location they're trying to get up and running. They actually construct and build wood frame buildings, either houses or commercial buildings. They do that on site with special machinery, the tolerances that they can build these things to. There's a lot of energy efficiency savings that goes into that. Dean got quite a lesson the other day from the gentleman that was here. It was a pretty interesting conversation of how they operate and stuff. So they're looking to expand. By 2019, they're wanting to actually have a lot larger site than what they're starting off with. So it'd be something that I think we'd want to consider, maybe trying to keep them in town. They're talking about quite a bit of business here in Ripon. The press release is actually, we got them in touch with the San Joaquin County Economic Development Association, which we work with, and they actually hired a consultant and applied for a California Competes tax credit, and it's a competitive tax credit process that you get into a kind of a competitive grant type of application. And they were successful. They got a $750,000 tax credit based on the investment they're going to make with the jobs and the investment into their facility and such. So it's some pretty exciting news. You can read through it. I won't go through the whole thing.
I do have a comment. That's a good job and all that. But if you have time, the mayor's name is misspelled. And since this is going out publicly, it'd be nice if it was spelled correctly.
You do that?
I didn't do that.
No, it's the people that do it, but I mean, it would be nice.
U before E. Isn't that like a English thing?
No, it definitely is not.
Well, there's some
He's
kind
not
of saying like that.
He's Mr. Ucker.
I didn't even notice that. Good job
change.
there, Mike.
We get a change. Actually, the person that's probably going to maybe print it is sitting right over there, so I think he just heard you. Vince might get that correction.
Hey, Vince, we're counting on you.
If we read it tomorrow, that it's EU.
Ooh, you.
So that's one of the pieces of information. And the other this evening I want to share with the council is Monday night, the Planning Commission will be considering the construction of a new Starbucks here in town, locating where the Barnwood restaurant is. So they'd be planning on tearing that down and constructing a new Starbucks at that location, which would have a drive-through. So that'll be at 6 o'clock at the Planning Commission for them to vote on. That's all I have.
Mr. Pease.
Nothing to report.
Is the gas station thing still moving forward?
Yeah, the gas station's still moving forward. They were approved. They're just working on plans yet and trying to get things submitted in. The ball's kind of in their court at this point.
Mr. Pease, you're done. I'm sorry.
I do have something to
Counsel.
report. I don't know if Tom has told you guys that we have a new attorney at our office.
Nope.
Has he reported that? Okay.
KOL, whoever
Yes,
that is.
Katie Lucchese. She is a third-year attorney, similar to Rosie's level in terms of how long she's been practicing. She has a lot of experience representing public agencies, and so she came to us from New Miller and Beardsley. She lives here in Ripon, and just a really, really nice person, very smart. We're very lucky to have her. So you will see her name on some of the things that, some of your bills, and she'll be contacting you and emailing you for different projects. So if you have any...
Lou Casey?
Katie Lucchese, yes.
Is she related to the wine Lou Casey?
Yes, so she is married to...
Sunny.
Thank you, Sunny Lucchese, and that Sunny's parents own Luca Winery. Yeah.
And she's her maiden name was Van?
O'Farrell.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Different
another
one.
Different
Yeah,
one.
so
Okay.
she's a really good asset to our firm. So when you see her, we'll try to bring her over here at some point. She is expecting her first baby in September, so
gonna
she's
sit in
joining
that
us for
chair
the
some
summer.
night?
And then what?
She gonna sit in that chair some night?
Some nights she will, but probably not until after she comes back after the baby.
We don't want her to have a baby early. If
Yeah.
it comes to-
Well, congratulations to you guys.
Yes.
And Mr. Administrator,
Nothing to report.
good job. Leo, we're skipping you. You caused
It's all right,
problems.
you're not leaving until I get done, so.
Okay, Leo, get it over with.
I just have one, well, actually two. One, do I recall correctly that we had an officer who got an award from MAD for doing something about drunk drivers?
Yes, Matt, or Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, has an annual banquet. They usually hold it in Ripon, but because of some of the issues that are going on with trying to get the numerous agencies that participate to one central location, they moved it this year to Sacramento. So we submit officers to MAD for an award if they show a propensity for having an impact on drunk driving and make an impact within our community. And Officer Raul Hernandez was submitted this year, and he received an award from MAD on behalf of the work that he does in our community. Officer Hernandez has been with us approximately 3 years, and this is his second award from MAD.
Congratulations.
And how long are the big bright pink circles down the middle of Main Street gonna be there? Don't tell me nobody knows about this. I was almost blinded by the silly things today. Have we got somebody surveying in town? Oh, yeah.
Until they wear off.
And if that's the answer I get, I'm not gonna be happy.
Well, we've incorporated to our encroachment permits that they have to remove the USA mark. Is that
Yeah.
what it is, a USA?
No, they're at Main and what is it, Stockton and Main? Right in the middle of this intersection, big red, big pink circle. And I think at the intersection of Acacia and Main, boom, big, and then down the street, there's at least one or not two more painted in the middle of the street. I was driving through town today and I thought, holy smoke, I mean, they're bright.
Someone picking up monuments?
Huh?
Are they monuments they're marking
Two
or
look
something?
like they might be survey monuments that they've just painted a big circle around, but make sure they know that when they leave, so do the pink circles, please. I just hate that. I mean, we spend all this time and money making this place look decent, and then I'm
Mr.
done.
DeGraff?
I've got a few things. Congratulations on hiring Katie. I've known her for a couple years now. She's a very bright girl, so I think will be a good asset. Chief, just want to say thank you for the opportunity to do a ride-along. I was able to do a ride-along on the Friday preceding 4th of July and was thoroughly impressed with the guys. A good decision adding 2 extra officers because they were busy the entire 5 or 6 hours I was with them. So just wanted to commend you on that, and then just let them know they did a really good job. I was really impressed with all of them. So that was good. Yesterday, Vice Mayor Restucia and I attended a, what do you call that?
Swearing in.
Swearing in of new citizens ceremony at the Modesto Veterans VFW Hall. Congressman Denham gave a little speech and had invited us to attend. So we were able to see the ceremony and welcome. It was 157 new citizens from 25 different countries to the local area. It was just a really neat ceremony to be able to watch that and just see the excitement of people becoming American citizens and being able to, now be able to experience the American dream. So it was just really neat ceremony, and it was a neat experience for me as well. So that, and then as usual, thank you to the members of the public for being here. That's it.
Vice Mayor Restuccio.
Yeah, those people yesterday were very happy. So since we're talking about paint at the meeting, I'll bring up a paint job too. On Manly, there's a yellow stripe. It's kind of like some truckers driving along Manly, and there's a paint line all the way down Manly, a yellow paint line. Looks,
Is it Manly or
Look-
Miljo?
excuse me, Milgio.
Milgio,
It looks terrible. They're not circles, but it's one big long line.
Someone's paint cans.
I think somebody was driving. It looked almost like it could have been.
Goes all the way out. It goes down Miljo to Murphy and then hangs a left on Murphy.
It's terrible.
I think it's related to Kuiper's development.
Yeah, I didn't see where it started. I just know that I was driving down going, this is, okay, is it going to end? Is it going to end? Is it going to end? Well, it didn't end.
It hangs in there for a while.
Yeah, Mildew, I'm glad you.
Don't drive that way.
Well, I know I'm avoiding downtown.
That's the first time I've seen pink. I mean, I've seen every other color, but. You're up,
That's
Mr.
it.
Mayor.
That's
Mr.
it.
Mayor.
I would just like to thank the chief and the city staff for the job they did on the fireworks. And I would like to also thank the chamber. They did a great job, I thought, this year. It all went smoothly. And me and Mr. Zuber were up in the tower, the water tower, watching the show. It was really loud up there because I guess the things echoed. It was supposed to be a silent show, or silent-er. And I did get a complaint from some little old lady out there at Peck, whatever that is out there, the 50 and older group.
Oh,
Chesapeake, that complained that it wasn't loud enough, believe it or not. He actually came into my office and complained that the fireworks were not loud enough. And I'm going, man, you should have come up and sit where we were
She must have
sitting.
had her hearing aid off.
But I thought the show went well, and I didn't see too many problems. But we had a great turnout. I think with the traffic control seemed a lot better this year than it has been in the past. But maybe it's because I stayed around for an hour or so and cleaned up. But all in all, I thought it was a great show, and I think that we owe a hoo-yah to the chamber for doing it again this year, and hopefully they'll stay intact with doing that. And I think we raised enough money to pay for the whole show, plus I think maybe
About
3,000
3,000 left over.
extra, which is better than we thought we were going to do.
That's good.
Thank God to some local businesses, and one of them sitting right there. They made we had really, there wasn't as much donations from pure citizens that we've always had in the past, of $50, $20, $5, those kind of things. But we had some very, notable large donations by several businesses in town: Burkett Pools, Ace Hardware,
Terpstra.
Tom Terpstra, I've already mentioned, not Tom, but there's a multiple name on it. Henderson.
Yes.
The Cal Crush, I can't think of
Don't
everybody.
think about it for a while. We'll wait.
And Kemper Fab, I should know all these because I went out and begged for all the money. And so we had it turned out pretty good, and it was a good show. So thank you. And with that, see ya.